I'm meteorologist Joe Bartosik with Alaska's weather source, and during the middle to latter portion of the month of April is usually when the Alaska Pacific River Forecast Center here in Alaska and in Anchorage usually does Flood Safety and Awareness Week. And it's a good time of the year as winter is coming to an end and spring is about to begin to review all the flood safety information as we enter into breakup season, whether it's going to be somewhat of a normal breakup or whether it's going to be a dynamic breakup. It's always good, especially heading on into summer, to review all the different types of flooding that Alaska sees, as well as how to be prepared for such events. Let's go ahead and start you off with a look at the different flooding types that the state does see throughout the course of a year. We go from flash flooding to river flooding, coastal flooding, which also does include storm surge flooding, like what we saw during the remnants of Typhoon Merbok making its way onshore into the west coast of Alaska back in September of 2022. There's also flooding from burn scars for leftover from summer fires, as well as debris flows. There's also ice and debris jams, as well as glacier dam flooding that occurs, flooding from snowmelt, and flooding from dam breaks and levee failures as well. As we take a look at what to do before a flood occurs, even before a flood watch is issued, when you know that conditions are getting ready for any kind of flooding, particularly in the couple weeks leading up to breakup, it's always a good idea to review some safety information. Make sure you create a communication plan. Know where your family is going to meet up with in the case that kids are at school, mom and dad's at work, somebody else is at home. Where are you going to all meet up, and how are you going to stay in touch with each other, especially during a flash flood or a flood caused by an ice jam, something that can occur very quickly. Make sure you have an emergency kit and it's easily accessible. Always know your risk level, even when a flood watch is issued. That's definitely the time to heighten your awareness as to what's going on with local rivers, creeks, and streams, and the overall atmosphere in your neighborhood. Sign up for notifications. You can always get those from the Alaska News Source and the Alaska Weather Source apps as well. Make sure your home is prepared. If you have to raise some things off of the ground level, by all means do so. Make sure for coastal communities and villages, make sure you have things away from the docks as well as from the shoreline. I know there's a lot of towns and villages that use trails right along the coast in order to drive their ATVs and their four wheels. So just a good idea just to make sure that things are prepared ahead of time. Make sure your family and pets are prepared, especially know what to do with those pets in case of an evacuation, how to keep them safe, as well as fed during any type of flooding situation. And of course, make sure you have your essential electronics charged at all times as well. Maybe have a couple blocks of stored charges on the ready to go. All right, as we take a look at what was topic number 3 is a good phrase to remember: turn around, don't drown. This is particularly true for, again, drivers in and around Fairbanks, as well as on into Anchorage, as we see flooding covering road surfaces. A good rule of thumb that I always look at is if you can't see the lines on the water, if you can't see the lines on the road through the water, usually not a good idea to be driving. So again, the common phrase is to turn around and don't drown. It only takes about 6 inches of fast-moving water to knock over and carry away an adult as well as a vehicle. 18 to 24 inches of fast-moving water can easily carry away most large SUVs, vans, and trucks. Actually, it's about a foot of water for most compact vehicles. All right, make sure that you know that if flooding occurs, you get to higher ground. Of course, you avoid roads that are already flooded. And again, just be cautious when driving at night, because it is harder to recognize flood dangers. And of course, just situational awareness, as well. All right, as we move on into our next topic here regarding flood safety, brief look at some historic Alaska floods. One of the bigger floods was the 1967 Chena River it was the most experienced or most damaging flood in Alaska history, 12,000 people had to be evacuated. Unfortunately, 6 individuals lost their lives. At the time, $85 million at least in damage. Fairbanks and Nenana declared federal disaster areas. All right, and also more recently, I'll look back at December 1st and 2nd of 2020, where northern southeast Alaska experienced severe flooding as well as some landslides as well. 11% of the Haines population were affected by flooding and landslides. Unfortunately, 2 individuals did lose their lives. Damages totaled $29+ million, and President Trump at the time declared Southeast a disaster area as a result of that flooding and landslide situation. All right, so we take a look at spring breakup 2023. Here's a look at river conditions. Currently, most rivers are still iced over. However, we're starting to see some of that opening up here across the upper Yukon Territory area of northwestern Canada. Koyukuk, Yukon, Kuskokwim, Tanana, Susitna rivers all stand an above average chance of seeing flood conditions as we enter into breakup during the month of May, as what could be a dynamic breakup. As we look at the tools that the Weather Service here in Anchorage has to use in order to monitor flooding, we have a photo viewer that is available, and this is all through the Alaska Pacific River Forecast Center website. You can go and you can take a look at different shots along the river to monitor when the ice is breaking up, and as well, whenever River Flood Watch, or River Watch, goes into effect, photos from there get uploaded to that website so you can see it on the ground as well as up on into the air. It's a great website that the Alaska Pacific River Forecast Center has. Lots of critical information there. And of course, we work closely with them to pass along all of the critical information that you need in order to keep you and your family prepared and safe during any kind of flood event, whether it is breakup or just regular river flooding caused by heavy rainfall or just from snowmelt. All right, if you can always relay that information to us here at Alaska's Weather News and Weather Source, as well as to the National Weather Service Alaska Pacific River Forecast Center here in Anchorage. There's the contact information there. All right, always a good idea to, throughout the year, review those flood safety tips. Of course, review your emergency plans, whether you're in a populated area or with your safety officer there in some of those outlying towns and villages. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, we at Alaska's News and Weather Source will keep you apprised of any type of flooding situation throughout the course of the year. We know how critical it is to life and property, and of course, to keep you and your family safe as well. I'm meteorologist Joe Bartosik, Alaska's Weather Source.